Hey y'all, so I'm gonna talk to you. As you see, my title is Objects in the Mirror Are Closer Than They Appear. Okay, so I'm gonna give everyone a warning. I'm more of like a little bit of a storyteller. So at first you might be like, what does this have to do with code? But it will eventually get there. And I do a little bit of shock value, but it's mostly just jokes. So just giving everyone a heads up. All right, so starting off with the shock value. Y'all, I have a confession to make. I cheated, but not on a person. Okay, so you don't have to get nervous and take me off air, and not on a test either. But instead, and I was just talking to Brian about this on my maternity leave. So before I dive into this, just kind of repeating some of what Brian said. My name is Rizèl Scarlett. I'm a staff developer advocate at Block. I'm passionate about technologies like JavaScript, and I love open source. And I would say I'm passionately conflicted about AI. Like I love using it, but also nervous of like where our industry will go with it. I'm also a new mom. Now, in terms of being a new mom, right? Maternity leave is awesome, right? It's a beautiful time to like bond with your kid, but it's also really, really exhausting, as everyone says. Like, I don't know why I normally don't sleep, but now with a baby, it feels way worse. Like, I'm like, wow, I feel sleepy at 2 a.m. Usually I'm like up on my computer. But I also think sometimes maternity leave is a little bit boring. Like I've never heard anyone say this before. Maybe it's just me. But sometimes I spend hours sitting in one spot, like either feeding my baby, putting my baby back to sleep. Sometimes she falls asleep and she doesn't even want me to leave. As you can see, my arm is basically locked down. Obviously, she's not strong to lock me down, but if I leave, then she'll wake up again. So most of my day is just spent like sitting next to her like all day. And then I can feel my brain turning to goo. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm having fun. And then sometimes I'm like, nothing to do, especially since it's cold outside. Like I live in a cold area. So people have suggested activities to me. They're like, why don't you like bake cookies or something like that? And I'm like, yeah, but I have to basically just sit and only have one hand. So I mostly just been doing things like watching TV. I watched almost every show on Netflix, Hulu, Prime. I even subscribed to Peacock. I was like, what do they have on there? I started playing games on my phone. I tried talking on the phone to people, but my baby was crying, so I can't hear anybody. I tweeted every random thought that I had. And then all of a sudden, I ran out of things to do. So the workaholic in me jumped out and I decided I want to see what they're doing on Slack and in my emails. I'm like, what y'all working on over there? And then I found out that they launched this AI agent that I had started working on with my team before I went on maternity leave. And it looked way better. And it's using an Electron app. I never used Electron before. Apparently, it's built with like it uses React under the hood. Electron has like a Chrome rendering engine. And I was like, what? They're doing all this? I'm like a little bit jealous. Like, I want to see what's up. What is everyone doing? So I saw a couple of issues out there. I was like, okay, the stop button is not that obvious. And this is open source. Will I get in trouble if I contribute to it? So I opened a PR and it got approved. And I was like, ooh, got a little bit of a dopamine hit. And I was like, what else do they got? They said the little kebab menu wasn't obvious. So I was like, let me just let me make it obvious. It's only gonna take me like 2 minutes with one hand. So I did that and it got approved and merged. And then I got too big for my britches, right? There was no open issue or ticket for this, but a user said it would be so cool if like the chat area right here was a what you see is what you get editor. And I was like, I feel like I could do that, right? Little did I know that was clown behavior. I should have never even decided to do that. I'm on parental leave. Like, what? But, anyways, so I decided I'm going to roll my own what you see is what you get editor. I didn't even use a package dependency. I was like, this is fun to figure out. And I was like, maybe the team will be like, no, we should use a package dependency. But they said they liked it. And I was like, okay, they liked it because a lot of those packages for what you see is what you get editors have like a huge boat size. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And then someone said, well, it does take up a lot of real estate. So if I don't know if you could see with this video right here, it's taking up more real estate from the chat window. And I was like, that's fair. And they're like, and how many people are really going to use it? And I was like, okay, that's fair. They're like, why don't you try like doing a popover toolbar? And I was like, you know what? I could try that. I've never done that before, but let's try it. But there was a problem. I did not know this, that since the chat input is a text area element, that makes it way more complicated. And you might be wondering, what's the problem with that, right? But text area elements aren't your average DOM elements. HTML elements, you can usually like manipulate the contents, measure the positions, add new elements. Text areas, they don't really act like that. It's really hard because they really just expose only like raw text content and basic selection APIs. And a lot of the rendering is controlled by browsers behind the scenes. Now, I did a little bit of like a illustrative concept for you all. I made this little house with React and SVGs just so you guys can like kind of get the analogy, right? So imagine you're looking at a house, right? If you're inside the house, you can move the furniture items around. You can add new items. You can measure distances between things. That's how regular DOM elements behave. But if you're looking through a window, you can see inside, but you can't reach in and you can't manipulate things. That's how a text area element will behave. So basically what I'm saying is like with a text area elements, you can make some basic changes like adding and removing text, but the browser handles all the internal workings using native operating system editing capabilities. So I was like, all right, I gotta figure out how to do this. So I was like posting about it on Blue Sky. I'm like, how do you even do this? And then Mark Texan hit me up and he was like, have you watched this talk by Una Kravitz? She talks about the Popover API. That might be helpful to you. All modern browsers have a Popover API for creating pop-up elements. And I was like, oh, maybe that is what I want. So here's how it works, right? Basically, you have a button. Let me zoom in just in case you guys can't see it. You have a button and it has an attribute called my popover target, and you'll name it like whatever you want. I named it my popover. And then so when you click that button, the pop-up will show up. So what I have is a div and I gave it an ID and it has to match the popover targets attribute. That way it knows that it'll connect to that and it'll show up at that time. And I made a little one that says this is a native popover. So here's how the results are, right? I recorded it so I don't have to switch my screen back and forth. I click the button, the popover shows up over here. Not a lot of code, but not exactly what I want, because this only works with button elements. You have to use CSS to position the popover relative to its target element. So I'm like, oh, it won't really be dynamic for whenever a user selects text. And this doesn't work in text areas. So I was like, womp womp, this isn't really what I want. But it was cool to learn about it. So I was like, how do I dynamically show popover on selected text? And I was like, all right, here's my goals, right? I need to know the position of the selected text and I need to listen for events that happen when text was selected. So I did a little bit of Googling and I learned about the selection API. And my friend Kobe's blog post popped up and it said how to share selected text in React with the selection API. And I was like, oh my gosh, this might be what I need. Like, I don't need the share part, but I'll be able to see how he got the little pop-up over the words. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm excited. And so I figured out there's these different methods. There's get selection, there's get range at, and there's get bounding client rect. So get selection, window.get selection basically returns the selection object to you and tells you about the text that a user has selected on the page. And I was like, okay, cool. And that gives you access to get range at with the passing in a zero. And basically how get range at works is it tells you exactly the beginning and the end of the selected text. So you have the start offset, which is where the selection began, and the end offset where the selection ends. So here's a little bit of a demo. Basically, if I was to select world that's not what I wanted to do. Basically, as I selected world right here with the exclamation mark, my start index will be 7 and my end index will be 13, because the end index is after the whatever comes after that exclamation mark. So that's how the get range at works. Also, side note, I was like, what is the zero for? Like, what does that stand for? And that is basically representing the different ranges that you select. And I was like, when have I ever selected more than one range? And apparently most browsers don't support that. So most of the time you're only going to be passing in 0 because I can't select engineers and people at the same time. I would only be able to select one at a time in most browsers. So then that also gave me access to get bounding client rect. And that returns a box of measurements around your selected text. So it gives you the top, the right, the bottom, the left, and it gives you the width and height. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. So I did like a little like demo for myself to see how it could work. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was able to figure out like the coordinates. I was able to put the popover right over it directly because I have the coordinates of where the text was selected. I have the selection length. I even am able to see what text was selected. I'm like, cool, I can grab so much information. This is might be what I need. But then I found out it didn't work in text areas. I was like, oh, this still is happening to me. It only works in divs and other elements. So then I was like, I'm just gonna ask AI, okay? And I was like, I need reinforcements. I'm frustrated. And so I asked the AI agent that my company built while I was on maternity leave, or that they made better. It's called Codename Goose. And I was like, listen, I need help. I don't know if it's crazy to ask an agent how to build itself, but I'm going to do it. Right. And for people who don't know what an AI agent is, it's basically just a tool that executes tasks on your behalf. So, whereas with like ChatGPT or something like that, you're like, hey, how do I do something? Or Copilot, and they suggest it to you, an agent will just do the task for you if that's what you want. And I have a little bit of a bias. I've tried out other agents. I tried out Devin. It was not as bad as everybody was talking about it. But I tried out Devin. I tried out this. I'm biased to this one because my company made it. It's open source. It's local to your machine. It's configurable, so you can add in whatever like model or LLM you want. And you can use Model Context Protocol, which is like an open source thing that Anthropic made, to like plug it into like any workflow that you have. So like if you're using Figma or something like that, you can plug it in there rather than having to give it context. It already has the context. But anyways, that was just giving you background about how this would all work. Anyways, I talked to the agent and it was like, did you try the mirror div approach? And I was like, I don't know what that is. And it told me basically it's going to create an invisible div that overlays the text area containing the exact same content and styling. So basically, when a user selects text, they're actually interacting with the invisible div, and then there's a text area underneath it, and it kind of gives that same look and feel, but you're getting access to the selection API. So I was like, okay, what if the AI agent is hallucinating? So then I double checked and I found a blog post from Jay Tompkins, which describes a very similar approach. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. And I saw the AI agent use something called get computed style. And I was like, I have no clue what that is. So I asked, well, and I didn't ask. I looked at the blog post and they actually use that same thing. And I figured out that basically get computed style is an API that returns computed CSS styles of HTML elements. And the whole point is you use the styles to match the text area's appearance of the overlay div. So here's how it is, right? We have like the div and then we have the text area being reflected here. You would overlay them on top of each other, but I just did this so you all could see. The little blue dot is where that popover will start. I'm like, okay, cool. Cool. We got the text area, we got the div, it's reflecting it. If I put it on top of each other, this is the experience. I'm like, this might be what I want. And I was so excited when I tried to do this. I basically had it working for myself. Got a little popover. It got to do the bold, the italics. I was trying it out. I put up a PR, attached videos, demoing it. I was like, I'm so excited. But then I was like, let me try something out. And when I tried out selecting multiple lines at like a random break, it did not work out well. It was looking ugly. I was like, oh, I was so annoyed. And I was like, that's why it's called the mirror div approach, because just like when real mirrors, things aren't always how they seem. Or as like car mirrors or windows, whatever they're called, those side mirrors say objects may be closer than they appear. So after that, I was frustrated and I wrote a comment saying, yeah, I'm not doing this ticket no more. Anyways, like they didn't have it on their priority, and I wasn't even supposed to be doing any work. So I was like, I'm done. And just to expand more on the mirror div, a mirror div can kind of distort reality in subtle ways. Basically, text can wrap at different points between the div and the text area, and browsers can handle spacing and font rendering differently, basically causing positions to shift unexpectedly. So here's the stuff I learned, right? I learned it's okay to do things that make you happy, even if it's not common. Some people would not want to do any coding on maternity leave. I want it. It made me happy. I learned not to pick up hard tasks, though. That doesn't make me happy. And I also learned that text areas are more unique and complex than I imagined, but I appreciate their engineering. I learned about the Popover API, and it's best if you're using buttons. I learned about the selection API, as you guys saw. It works amazing to grab text that's not in a text area element. And I learned about the mirror div approach, which to me is some big brain energy. Like it was complex for me. Um, and some resources if you wanted to see the agent. I did a short link at tinyurl.com/block-goose. And then if you want to, I don't know, read stuff I wrote, I even wrote about this experience with the selection APIs and stuff like that. If you wanted to go back over it, my blog post or my blog is at dev.to/blackgirlbytes. And on every social media platform, my handle is at blackgirlbytes. So you can find me there. And if you wanted to tweet or blue sky post, whatever, that this was such a good talk and I am so cool, feel free to. That's it.
Thanks, Giselle. I love the story way you told this because you covered three different things, right? Like, but in essence, just through trial and error, which funny enough, you and I were chatting about Brian Robinson's talk that preceded you, which you weren't able to watch, but like kind of led right into your talk because he talked about basically the power of play and how sometimes like even in playing in code and in your case like this was even though you were on maternity leave like it was like this was you were playing around, you were having fun
Yeah.
with code, and even though it wasn't ultimately successful, I guess, did they
Yeah.
take what you used there and actually finish it, or did you all give up on the editor
I
piece?
gave I gave up. I maybe we'll go back to it later. I don't know, but it's not a priority for them. So they're like, but they took the other stuff. And I didn't take it as a loss, kind of like you said, because I just wanted to. I'm like, I haven't gotten to just play with code in a long time because there's always a goal or a priority that has to happen. So I just wanted to try stuff out and I got a chance to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll finish it, or you'll finish it when you're back, and
Yeah, we'll see.
I've seen those. It's amazing because I'm sure there must be a way to do that. I just
Yeah,
um
I think
yeah.
so too, because
Huh.
I was looking at Discords. Discord has like a really good one. I'm like, how did they do this? I probably should just use a package dependency or something. I was being uh stubborn and wanted to write it on my own. There's probably a
Hmm.
npm package that does it right out the box.
Probably. I mean, I guess that might be the case. So okay. So let's folks, if you got questions for Rizal, we've got some time for questions here. But I want to kind of go over. So Popover API is specifically for doing like those, well, popovers, but
Yeah.
like kind of can you kind of give a little more context around what that API is about?
Yeah, I mean, what I shared is what I learned, and basically, it only gets triggered if you're using a button. Like the popover target attribute is only available on buttons. So if you were to click a button and you wanted something to show up, you could do that, and you could do it with no JavaScript, I guess.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
can't use popover like any other click. It's only button click, really,
yeah, only
that
button.
popover works for you.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
disappointed. I'm like, they need to I don't know. I mean, not they need to, but I can't wait for browsers and engineers who work on that stuff to continue to develop that.
And
Yeah.
the selection API will like is that kind of what's going on in that last like you're using the selection API, but you're basically using it in a div because you said it
Yeah.
works in a div, but now I'm
Yeah.
laying over the div over top of the text.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Basically, you take a div, you copy the style of the text area and how it would behave, and like you put it over it, and then select the text, and it should show up. But sometimes it's a little wonky. So that's probably like the best solution. But I was like being a perfectionist, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's one like pixel off. I don't like that.
Yeah, no, totally. So I mean, I guess what would be like what I'm trying to think of like other uses for the selection API if you can't use it because I had to imagine
Oh,
like a text area seems to be like really one of those places where you would have thought it would by default work.
yeah, I
Um,
guess because the text areas are just weird. But yeah, there's other times on browsers where you select text, like you might want to copy and paste or something like that. Or trying to think, maybe if you're like on a news article and you want to like share a quote from the article, you like
oh
select
yeah.
over it and like a little thing pops up and you're like, okay, share. I don't know.
You could do
I made
yeah,
that
like a
up off
social
my head.
share kind of thing. Yeah. Like yeah. I think I've seen some of those, and now I know how that actually works. I've never dug into that API. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Linda's saying working with text makes me think about the first dev task I had where I had to use a button to expand collapse text. There's so many edge
Oh,
cases that aren't super obvious, right? Like, yeah,
yeah.
I think absolutely this is one of those things where the more you dig in, the more you like kind of struggle um, because you hit these little edge cases. In your case, it was the multi-line selection, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so Savannah asks, first of all, she says, Rizal, your talks are always so engaging. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah. Uh, she asks, do you have a process or any tips for others wanting to give a talk one day in a similar storytelling framework? So it's
Oh,
not related to
wow.
Popover API or a selection
Yeah.
API. We're talking now, yeah, it's talk tips, which I did say I mentioned you're one of my favorite speakers
Oh,
because you do kind of have the storytelling way of doing stuff. So, yeah, any
thank you.
tips?
Well, I'm glad because I don't have too much more on the selection API. I shared everything I knew. But in terms of like talk process, I don't know. I think I just do a lot of trial and error. I give a lot of bad talks too. And I figure out I'm like, okay, that one didn't necessarily hit and I can switch it. And I kind of lean on like whatever's going on in my life at the time. Like when I was pregnant, I gave talk like I found a way to relate it to that when I don't know if I got my first DevRel job, I found a way to relate it to that because it makes me more passionate to talk about it. But I don't know if I have like a specific process. It's really just like what's going on in my life. I go take a shower and then I just write my talk. I don't know, like I have shower thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that like when I go I do like a time on the treadmill and like that's usually when I come
Yeah.
up with that's what I'm the most creative and there's actually like science behind that like doing these other activities can kind of uh
Sparks them.
bring about yeah spark creativity particularly when you're active or something like that it is that's why like you know I one of the things that keeps me going back to the gym is just that's my thinking
Yes.
time. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, that's true. In the
um,
gym too, I have thoughts. I'd be like, oh, that's
yeah.
smart.
So Benino says, based on your experience with the Electron framework, I've noticed Chromium, which I understand is Electron's core technology, becoming increasingly dominant in desktop application development. Would you recommend Electron as a good entry point for someone looking to contribute to open source web technology projects? What has been your experience working with it?
That was literally my first time working with Electron. And it felt like a web app, like the experience, the way that the project was structured. So if you're familiar with like React and stuff like that, I say go for it. I say go for any code base that you're curious about and looks interesting to you. I don't think you should limit it and be like, oh, only Electron or only this. Like if it looks interesting and you want to dive in, go for it. I don't know if that
Yeah, I mean,
answered the question, but yeah.
I think it does. I mean, I think Electron, there are some other alternatives, but Electron seems to be kind of the
Oh,
core.
that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Tori too. That's true. I see what they're saying. Yeah, there's Tori. But yeah, I say if it's familiar to you, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I there was also at one point I think because even originally VS Code was built on Electron, and I think they forked it
Oh,
or something like that. If I'm remembering the story correctly, it could be maybe I'm just making this up and I'm doing fake news or something here. Um, but
it sounds
but I
close.
seem to remember that.
I think Adam, I know Adam for sure was, I don't know if you remember Adam was building
I do remember
Electron.
Adam. Well,
Yeah.
there was one that was years ago. So the first code editor I remember being built with web technologies like was actually one called Brackets when I worked at Adobe.
Oh, okay.
Um and that was so they built a whole engine for running like the browser stuff in a desktop tool. Um it's not made anymore. But it was
Oh,
yeah, I am
right.
I'm almost positive it preceded Visual Studio Code.
I think
It
so.
was,
I think I
it was a
used
time.
Bracket one time.
Did you
Oh,
really?
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
think
no. It's okay.
I think there's a lag and I talked over you. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm having like network issues today, of course, because I think thankfully you all, I'm not going to be on the rest of the day. I'll just be on the chat. We got to turn it over to Sean, so hopefully his internet's better than mine. But anyway, yeah, there's a little bit of a lag. But yeah, but Brackets was that first code editor that I remember like using like that. But it doesn't exist anymore. Oh,
Oh, the lag might be from
seemed to.
me. I'm sorry,
Oh,
guys.
maybe it is. Now I hear you, but I can't see you.
Oh no.
It's all
Sorry.
right.
I Okay, I'm back.
Oh, there we go. Hey, you're back.
Okay.
Welcome back, Rizal.
Thanks.
um, can you tell me a little bit more about the agent that you all are building? I'm curious because I mean, obviously, like it's a big hot topic. Everybody's
Mm.
becoming agentic. Um, so like,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about the one you all.
Yeah, like I had mentioned, it's open source and you can I think what's different than what I've seen from a few agents is kind of like you can plug it into different tools that you have. I think I mentioned it in the talk where like if you're using Figma and plug it into Figma and it'll have context of whatever designs you have. Um and it's using model context protocol so anybody can make their own type of like extension as well. And I believe other products are using it too, like Cursor. It's a cool agent. And I didn't really know much about agents until I used this because I was like, what's the difference? Everyone's calling their tool agentic. But really, for me, I think when people say agent, they should really mean like it automates tasks for you. So you can say, hey, I want to build or I want to add these unit tests, and it goes in and adds. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. I'm
We can
gonna
hear you, so yeah, finish your thought.
Okay, I'll use this.
Oh,
Um, yeah, but what was I saying? Yeah, basically it goes in and it automates the task for you, so it'll act on the task rather than say, "Oh, did you want to write the word function or did you want to do this?" It'll just go ahead and do it for you. So that's supposed to like speed up the development process and your productivity. I don't know exactly how I would feel about that if I was a pure software engineer, but I find it helpful as a developer advocate when I want to do like a quick demo or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I just want to do this for like a blog post or a talk or just so people can get the idea, but I don't necessarily have as much time because I have to work on other stuff. I find it helpful for that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've used like I mean, Cursor has their agent built in as
Composer.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the composer. And I mean, I've only recently started using it. I've hesitated because I loved your like description of yourself as passionately conflicted. That's how I am. I tell people like within my company even I'm known as being the atheistic, even though I use AI heavily. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not you can be, I think, an AI skeptic and yet still use AI. It- it- but um, but yeah, so I use their agent, and I with you, developer advocate, it makes a lot of sense. Like, hey, you know what? I can whip up the front end of a demo um,
Yeah.
really easily. Whereas like I used to do that and it would take a long time. And honestly, I'm a bad designer. And it turns out that, I'm bad enough designer that the agent is a better designer than I am. So like that's a big help.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I feel
and
the
nobody's
same.
nobody's deploying that code, right? So like I mean, it's just a demo. It's not like a production app. So
Exactly. Once you get to production apps, maybe need to be a little bit more careful, review it more. I always tell people like review your code as much as possible when it's generated by AI. And I think the part that I'm conflicted about with AI is that everyone describing it more like a human. Like I recently wrote like a blog post that's like your AI agent's not an engineer. Like talking about it replacing developers, acting like it's can do every single thing that a human developer can do,
mhm.
not really true. I'm like, it just augments or helps us, but it's not like gonna do every single thing. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. In fact, my experience has been, you know, a lot of times like for easy stuff, which is why it's great for like writing the front end of a web app, right? Like
Mm,
some of those pieces, because that's not I'm not saying it's like easy, but like for what I'm trying to do, it's easy. I'm just a
yeah,
simple like front end. But like when I've asked it more difficult questions, it tends to be wrong. But it's
mhm.
authoritatively wrong. It's like that person
Yeah,
who gets up there and like is, to go back to the guy I was quoting earlier, this guy named Ed Citron. He had this whole episode. Apparently, these researchers wrote this whole research paper about how like AI is basically. They said it was AI is into forgive my language, but AI is bullshit. It was literally but they're using some kind of scientific like almost like definite philosophical definition of what bullshit is. Um,
uh,
it's like because it's authoritative even when it doesn't know what it's talking about, right? Like it's
yeah,
it's the person who didn't read the book and got up there and is giving the book report. Um, you know, so
yeah.
those are people we elect president though. So like that's okay. Get myself in trouble here.
That's interesting. And oh wait, I would be like, I should talk about how the agent might be a little bit different than some other AI tools. I didn't really think about these until just now, but like, most of the agents I've used have been like lovable, or I think it's bolt.new or whatever, and that's like through like on the like via browser, or cursor only really has access to that like one particular repository that you're in, or directory or whatever. But with the AI agent that my company made, Goose, it can access your, if you want it, if you give it permissions to, like not out of your permissions, it can access your system, so like your computer system. So I was just playing around with it. I had it like I told it to like dim my brightness, like start a YouTube video, collects data from the web and like turn it into a CSV and then a pivot chart. Like I told it to do all that in one. And I thought that was kind of cool that I could do. Like, I don't know when I will really be doing that, but I just like have been playing around with it. I even played tic-tac-toe with it. I was like, build a tic-tac-toe game, and then you play against me. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what people would do with it. I think saw a guy like make spin up multiple instances of that particular agent, and they were like working together to build a web app. I don't know how he did that, but those are like interesting random things that I figure I will bring up.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. I was trying to think about like how that would work. Did it work building your tic-tac-toe game?
Did it? Yeah, it did. It did. It
Did.
lost the game continuously. I thought it would be smarter, but it did build the tic-tac-toe game, and then I played X, and then what it did, it was take a screenshot to see the state of the game, and then it would say, "Okay, I'm gonna play in my O in this part." So I thought it was interesting. Yeah. I don't know what
I'm a
situation I
little
would use that for,
like
but for
my
fun.
skepticism here of like an AI that's smart enough to build a tic-tac-toe game but can't win at tic-tac-toe, which is like
Yeah, I was like, "Just try to beat me, be more competitive." It saw that I did,
yeah.
like, a whole column, and it still put its O far away. I was like, "I don't know," but I'm gonna keep playing around with it to see, like, how can I make it more competitive? Since I have all the time on my hand, well, not all the time in the world, but since I have a little bit extra time, I'm just experimenting with it as much as possible.
Yeah. You know, eventually it's going to keep playing tic-tac-toe and it's going to say the only way to win is not to play the game. All right. Yeah. Sorry. This is my War Games reference for those of you not old like me. Results like I never saw War Games.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know.
know.
Yeah. See, I
It
am
sounds like it's
old.
funny.
It actually,
No.
like I think the beginning of War Games, they like literally sitting there with like a phone that they hook into, like I don't, you're obviously way too young to know that like you used to take the phone and you had this little device you'd actually put the phone in, and
Oh,
that's
wait,
how
I
it did the
know.
communication. You put the handset. What, do you know what a handset on an actual phone that used to? You may not have even encountered that. See,
I don't
even
know.
my references to my like you're like anyway. Let me tell you what record players are.
I thought I knew what you were talking about for a second, but I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm not too sure."
All right. Well, we've certainly gotten off topic here. Sorry, it's totally my fault. But all right, Rizal. Well, I really appreciate that you took time off your maternity leave. Congratulations on the baby
Thanks.
and everything. And so but I appreciate that. I think the passion that you have for this comes through because you're like the kind of person who does these projects like for fun while you're sitting there trying, take your baby with one hand. That's some people were asking, how do you code with one hand? And I'm not
Like
really
that.
sure.
Just like this, I
Slowly.
don't know.
Very slowly.
Yeah, very slowly. I
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming out, Rizal. Best of luck with the rest of your maternity leave and everything else. And I will hopefully see you up in Boston sometime soon.
Yeah, see ya. Thank you so much.